qnlabs.com. That's qnlabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Marshall, PhD, host of Healthline. Tune in to get your questions answered and hear the latest breakthrough information for you and your family. Our product line, Quantum Nutrition Labs, delivers what others only promise, nutrition that really works.
You've tuned in to KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
The revolution starts now. You're about to enter the Real Estate Expert Online Radio Show. The Jake and Cliff Show is on. Showing you how real estate investing can make your dreams, your future, your financial freedom, your reality. And now, your hosts, Jake and Cliff.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to you all. The Real Estate Expert Online Radio Show is now live. I was talking with Cliff before the show, and he asked me to tone it down because apparently I've been getting too much caffeine in my coffee, and I was imitating the old top 40 DJs or the radio in the morning DJs who had to kind of shout and kind of get excited because you had to wake everybody up. Yeah. It's 12 noon here, and everybody should be awake. If not, go back to sleep. That's where I wish I could be. And as you may know, on this show, we are all about real estate, and we're all about real estate from the standpoint that we want you to get involved. And I'm chomping at the bit to talk about some things that we're not going to be able to talk about today. But it's all focused on that. And one of the things that is great about this show is that we have on this show
Cliff
every week.
Oh, wait.
We have Cliff. Just hold on, Cliff. Cliff, ease up on the caffeine in your own coffee there, bud. You got to wait for the perfect moment. So as I was saying, we have Cliff Gager, and Cliff Gager is an actual real live radio, or not merely a radio, but he's a real estate expert, and this guy knows everything. I want to tell you, I'm so impressed with him. And now, without further ado, I think I would like to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, the real estate expert, Cliff Gager. Cliff?
Hey, Jake. Hey, everybody. I love the way that you present the broadcast on the demeanor of, or the situation like...
Wait a minute. You want to give a definition of demeanor? I'm a little...
No.
I think we just threw the audience on that one.
I used a different word. It's just the way that you present is so old school. It's so cool, and
thank you.
And I love it. And you've been a performer, so when you perform with an instrument or in a group or in a band. Or even you perform in a courtroom. It's all about the performance, and what we want to give to the listeners is our absolute best performance and allow them to have the best performance in their real estate activities. If you are thinking about investing in real estate, or you are investing in real estate, or you want to try invest in real estate, or you don't want anything to do with investing in real estate, it's really good to listen to the show, simply because what we're doing is we're bringing forth a lot of the secrets. And I hate to use the word secrets. It's really not a secret, but if you don't know the methods that we're going to show you, they kind of are secrets, but they're just unknowns. So we're bringing the unknowns into the mainstream right here on terrestrial radio, on our little 1 hour on Saturday real estate show. It's exciting. It's I hope that when you listen to the show that you get as much out of it as you can. I hope that if you're not going to use it as a real estate investor, the one thing that you can do is, if you go out and buy your own home to live in for a purchase, use some of these strategies, because if you go out and you buy a house and you get $20,000 off the price just because you use one of my methods, it's all good. It's about saving you money. It's about making you more intelligent through the buying system of buying a house. And also, if you do want to get involved into the investment side of it, it sure is a great way to make a living. If you wanted to do it full time, and also it makes a great part-time thing that you can do in your spare time and make extra money. You know, Jake, I know everybody needs a little bit of extra money, and sometimes when you have extra money in the bank, you can do things that you normally wouldn't do. Take vacations, buy a new car, or buy a new used car. You know, you can buy a used car and still have a great deal. But the whole thing is getting smart, you know, learning how to do things with intelligence or knowledge. And I don't necessarily like to use the word intelligence, but just knowledge is not, you know, you've always heard, I think it was on Saturday mornings on like cartoons or something, they used to talk about how knowledge was power. And basically,
knowledge is power.
Yeah. And when you have this knowledge that you can use, whether it's investing, buying a house, this works on commercial, this works on residential, this works on multifamilies, this works on manufactured homes. It'll work on everything. It's just knowledge, you know.
Well, I'm glad that you said the thing about the knowledge is power, because I wanted to bring this up because of course, we are both real estate investors. We're both real estate educators. And I wouldn't want to say that I'm a junkie about this, but I've certainly done my share of learning about real estate so that I could get to the situation where I'm at today. And in fact, you and I met at a RIA meeting, a Real Estate Investors Association meeting, which is a great place, by the way, for people to network. I met myself a great partner, a great friend, and that's where I met him. And so, and we'll talk about RIAs. We call them RIAs. They're real estate. That's an acronym for Real Estate Investment Association.
Right.
But I want to go ahead and just say that this knowledge that we talk about, you can almost be like Diogenes. You've heard the story of Diogenes, the ancient Greek, who went out in search, holding a lantern in the daylight in search of an honest man. And he couldn't, the idea being that an honest man was hard to find.
Yeah.
You can go, and I understand this because I was in this situation, you can go and searching for this real estate knowledge, and you don't always necessarily find it, and you begin to get a complex, or you can, and you begin to think, my gosh, am I like Diogenes out there searching with a lantern, you know, walking around in the light of day? But the thing is that once you find this, and I want to let you guys know that if you're listening to this radio show, you found it.
Yeah.
Cliff is the guy. He's the guy. He likes to talk about himself. He calls himself the bomb. I'm the bomb.com. And he really is. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't really believe it. But the thing with this knowledge is, and the thing that's so exciting to me, because this is about your own personal financial revolution. Cliff and I, we've done this, and we know that it can be done. Our students do it all the time. But some people would try to tell you, I think, and Cliff, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, that this is secret knowledge. They're going to withhold it from you. Some of them do withhold it from you, in my opinion, and they really don't give you all the knowledge that you need to get from point A, simply from point A to point B, which can be very discouraging. But this knowledge is not rocket science. That's the thing about it that just cracks me up. It's not rocket science. You can learn to do it. Once you learn to do it, I use the story over and over again about Christopher Columbus at the banquet after he came back from the New World. He challenged everybody to see if they could make an egg stand on its end, and nobody could do it. Whereupon he just cracked the egg on the edge, on the top or the bottom of the shell, and voila, it stood up on his end. And he made the point that. And the point to be taken from that is that once you know how to do it, once someone explains it to you, there is nothing easier than to follow it. And that's why we're so excited regularly, and you see me getting a little animated here. It's not merely the caffeine, it's the realization and the recognition I have that this is really true. If you guys are listening right now, you're in the right place. So, Cliff, what do you say? Let's get going with it.
Well, I want to talk about some really cool things today, and one of them being the difference between residential and commercial, because a lot of people, I've been teaching this a long time, and a lot of people ask me questions about, whether they want to get involved in commercial or whether they want to get involved in residential. And the key is, generally, when you're listening or you're trying to learn how to do this, you want to make big money. You want to make money like they make on TV. Be a real estate tycoon, and that's okay. You can do that. There's different levels of getting involved in this, but generally, what people want to do is they want to get involved in commercial. And I wanted to talk about how on the investor side, when you're getting into this in the very beginning, it's not the safest route for a beginning investor to do. In other words, the entry money is really high when you're getting involved with commercial real estate. Generally, it's more expensive. Generally, it's a lot more involvement when you're relating to the expenditures that you're going to have to go through. Just buying a commercial piece of property is very expensive. One of the first things that back in the 90s when I did a deal on my first commercial property, the appraisal was like almost $30,000, and it was a large piece of property. And, I came from the residential side where a really expensive appraisal was like $500. And, so when I heard that they wanted $30,000 to do the appraisal, I almost, hit the floor. But the cost, the expenses of everything going into a commercial deal are very expensive, not excluding the price of the property. You go into like a Walmart or a Kmart or some type of retail box store, and you don't realize that it's millions and millions and millions, if not tens of millions of dollars to acquire a piece of property like that. Now, you can buy little strip malls for like $1 million in a not so great area that's going to give you a decent return. But the problem is how do you know what's what about a commercial property and whether it's a good investment or not? So if you understand the types of properties, you've got multifamily apartment buildings, and anything over 5 units is considered commercial. So if you have like a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, then what you're looking at is a residential property. So you under 5 units, you can do common, ordinary financing, which is not so expensive. But when you hit that 5th unit, it does change the property into a commercial property, which, if you think about it, is basically a completely different structure, a lot more expensive to do the transaction. So when you're looking at apartments, you have to factor in all the expenses that are going to be in addition to. I see on properties that are on television, and you see advertisements on Facebook and Twitter and all of that kind of stuff. And what happens is basically you see people talking about, why would you want to buy a house when you can buy a whole apartment building? Well, slow down there. What do they say? Pump the brakes there for a minute, because basically when you start getting into multi-level or multi-family properties, you're coming into multi-level problems. So if you have no experience in that with the property management side of it or the expense side of it on the rehab of doing 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 units, it's really good to slow down, start in a smaller type property that's easier to manage, easier to maintain, easier to control, and that's what it's all about. Now, retail office, medical office supplies, the thing that a lot of people do is they assume, they think that the property is going to do something because they think something about a current event happening, like maybe they go to the doctor and they notice that in the doctor's office building there's like all doctors, and they're like, man, I bet you it would be great to own a building that has all these doctors in it because all the doctors make so much money and they always pay their bills on time, and this would be really good. Well, if you think that way, it could be true if you're on the front end side of a building where they're gonna put a hospital in somewhere, and you can move in there first and convert a building into medical space. But there's a lot of things that they're gonna need as far as electrical, as far as plumbing, that in the commercial world is very expensive. It's expensive to do in your house, but it's really expensive when you start doing those things in a commercial type scenario. So, there's a lot of things, and basically what I'm talking about is the knowledge of the property, the knowledge of what's involved in that property, the knowledge of what's entailed into it. Because if you have an office, you don't have a lot of plumbing. If you have a medical place, if you have a dentist's office, it's all plumbing. So it can be very expensive on the initial acquisition. It can be very expensive if you're going to convert a property into that. So, and when everybody hears about the big end profits on the other side, understand that there's a high level entry fee. There's a high level of expenses and that you're going to have to face when you're creating that scenario. Office buildings are kind of easy, you just got to make sure they have electric and internet and a bathroom somewhere, and it's got to be a decent location. So how do you know if it's a good location or not? Well, it gets more difficult when it becomes commercial, so that's why I lean towards the residential side. Everybody needs to live in a house or an apartment. Not everybody needs to have a 7-Eleven or a medical office building, So the market for a beginning real estate investor is higher for somebody that wants to do beginning investing, if you're going to look for a property that's going to be rented out and you're going to rent it out and collect rental income, it's easier to find a stable residential tenant than it is to find a commercial tenant. The building has to be specific for the commercial. So it's always you're looking for a specific person to rent on the commercial side, whereas, everybody needs to rent a place to live. So when you think about the economic side of that, the person that's going to need a place to live generally, and I speak generally because most people pay their rent and they pay it on time, and you would hope that your tenants all do that. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way and you have to go through the eviction process. But it's very easy as a landlord, depending on the state you're in, to go through that process. Whereas with a business, it could be difficult. You could have attorneys involved, that would slow down the removal of the tenant from the building. There's a lot of factors that could stack against you. And the process on the residential side is more well known. It's more there's more guidelines along the lines of having somebody, you have to go through certain steps to get there. And businesses can fail overnight, where sometimes with a tenant you can, they start paying slow. They start calling you and saying, hey, can I pay next week? Or, they might communicate with you more, whereas a business might just be there one day and be gone the next. In fact, I was reading in the news this week that there was a major corporation that shut its doors, and they didn't even tell the employees. The employees were showing up for work, and there was nobody there, So the doors are locked. The customers didn't know, the employees didn't know, and they're catching a lot of heat for it. And that's just one of those things that reassures me about going back to residential, because you're dealing with a better climate as far as that goes. And there's more home dwellers than there are, pizza guys that needs a pizza restaurant. So I like that aspect of it, because you're not dealing with specialty properties. Now, if you're on the residential side, I like to look at properties that are in the median price range. I like to look at houses that are not really expensive and not really inexpensive. I like to look at, and median versus medium is the most average price in an area. So the medium number, which would be the middle, would be, let's say, between 500,000 and $1 million, would be 750,000. But the median could be 600, because there's more houses moving or selling or active in that price range. So knowing that is really easy to determine and find out on the residential side, because that data is readily available. You can get it from real estate agents. You can get it from real estate brokers. Some investors can go online. You can go to like all the websites, Zillow and Realty Track and all those other places. They all have, the demographics of the neighborhood, the demographics of the people in the neighborhood, the demographics of the whole city, and the geographical areas that you can look at and map out and see the warm spots and the hot spots. That's all easy to do, whereas in commercial side, you have to do studies, best use studies. And all of these things are very expensive. And again, the entry fee is very expensive to get on the commercial side. But it is really cool when you do a 15-year lease with somebody like Staples or Walmart or whatever, and they're going to be there for 15 years, and they pay the taxes, they pay the insurance, they pay the electric, they pay everything, on a triple net. But when you look at the returns on residential versus commercial, again, you have to factor in all the beginning expenses. And when you factor in the beginning expenses, sometimes a lot of people just can't afford to get in on that. So the entry level being as high as it is, the expense of the property, you could be talking millions and millions of dollars. So you might have to bring in partners. If you have to bring in partners, you have all of those aspects that can be very difficult too. So I like commercial. I think there's some really good deals out there on commercial. But if you're a beginning investor right now, stick to residential. Everybody needs a house to rent. Not a lot of people are looking for commercial properties unless they have a specific job or need. And, quite honestly, houses are fun. If you watch any of those shows on TV with the flipping shows or the like on HGTV and all those stuff, those can be a lot of fun to watch, and they're a lot of fun to do. And, we're going to talk about that on the second half of the show today, which is, the aspects of wholesaling, because a lot of people want to wholesale property. So, Jake, what is your ideas on the commercial side versus the residential side?
I've got a buddy who does that, and I was thinking as you were talking about him. He's a great guy, and he's very involved in it. But the thing that I was listening to you as you were talking about something being hard. I would say the bar is higher. If you want to use a sports analogy, somebody jumping over a high jump and there's a bar place there, and they've got to clear the bar every time. And
Right.
That's the thing for an initial investor. You want to learn to walk before you can run. You don't necessarily have to do the big deal to strike it big. Slow and easy is okay. And if you get involved in a commercial deal, you're going to find out that there is a higher level of expertise that is going to be needed. You may need specialized experts. And we, of course, we always recommend that you use specialized experts, but these experts are going to be more familiar with residential real estate than they are commercial. We can certainly direct you to the specialized experts, and we do that ourselves. But there's no need to go faster than you can run on this. And I think that to start out, to do a couple of residential deals and to get those under your belt is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I have no problem with that at all.
I agree with that, because when you start looking at the aspect of the expenses involved, you know, I even said this last week. You know, when you go to the casinos, like in Vegas or anywhere these days, and you're walking down that hallway or you're going up or down the escalators into the casino, they have all these pictures of people that won huge jackpots, you know, and you'll see, you know, George from Tennessee won $2 million, or you know, Mary won $50,000, or this guy over here won the progressive jackpot for $600 billion, you know, but they don't show you all the people that hit the wall, you know, and if you've ever gone to Las Vegas, you walk through the casinos, let's say at 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock in the morning, not a.m., but, you know, well, yeah, a.m. and in the afternoon.
Morning is a.m., Cliff.
Yeah. Well, you know, in Vegas, there are no clocks, so you really don't know what time it is. But
not if you stay indoors all the time.
That's it. But when you go in there during the daytime, like when all of us party people are all sleeping, the regulars are there, the locals are there. And they're there all day, and all day they just keep feeding and feeding and feeding. And I always tell everybody, you know, when you look at the skyline of Las Vegas and you see all those ginormous, gorgeous, beautiful buildings and casinos and hotels, they built those buildings off of winners like me. Yeah, that's kind of a trick there, you know. If I'm a winner, then I took money away from the casino. If I'm not a winner, they made a lot of money. And I think there's more people. I don't want to have to upset the casino people, but, you know, a lot of people make a lot of bad slot machine pulls. And they don't walk out with a jackpot every time, but that's not the way that they present it. So when you look at commercial real estate, you're going to see all the great stories. You're going to hear about all the people that made tons of money. Right. And, you know, if you go to real estate seminars, you're going to hear, oh, my God, look, this person was so good, they did this. And this person over here, they did that. And, you know, I'm guilty of it, too. I present all of my successes on my clients and my students that take my training, but not everybody wins every single time. But how do you increase those odds? Well, in the casino, you can't. There's no way to really come out better unless you can count cards. But then
it's an unfair comparison when you're comparing real estate with the casino. That's a different situation.
Well, when you're looking at TV shows talking about real estate investing, and you watch these seminars that come through the town every once in a while, and you hear this stuff on the radio shows, like even on ours today, they're never telling you about the hard times that some people might experience. And in the 25 years that now it's 26. I keep forgetting we just switched the year again. I keep getting younger though. When you
just keep saying that, Cliff.
I know. I keep looking in the mirror and like, who's this old guy looking at me? My God. But
you bring up a good point too, which is that slow and steady wins the race. But I you know, as I sit here and listen to you, I think that a lot of people, we know that it's hard out there for people. We know that life is tough. We know that a lot of people out there who are listening to us and who come to the events are looking for that. They're looking for that big score. They're looking for how Cliff and Jake, or Jake and Cliff, can tell them how easy it is. They hear the stories, and as you said, this is kind of what the companies who go out and do these things, I wouldn't exactly say it's their bread and butter, but it's how they lure people in. And the thing that I would say is that, and the thing that concerns me about this too, I was about to say something else, but I want to say this, is that I'm very much afraid, and I'm very concerned, and we talk about this in our events too, of the difference between cause and effect in these things, because what we're talking about here is cause and effect. If Cliff tells you to do something and you do it, chances are you're going to get a positive result. We're not going to make a guarantee on that. We're not going to say that it happens every time, but while it's not rocket science, there is a cause and effect relationship between the things that what we'll tell you to do and what's going to work. Right. And I think that people have not experienced that before in their lives. And when you get into a situation where life seems to be doing it to you and everything seems to be difficult, you don't seem to be able to get the knowledge to do these things that you are. You get into the realm of what is called magical thinking.
Right.
And you see the people who do these things and you think there is some kind of magic there that they can do it, or they had someone help them. And yeah, they had someone help them, you bet. But you don't see that. You begin to think this is just something that maybe I can't do, but oh, wouldn't it be wonderful? And one of the things we want to do is to dash that impression and to tell you that there is cause and effect there. There is more than one way to skin a cat in real estate, and we're the guys that can show you to do it, especially Cliff. So having sounded off like that, I don't know if that answered the question you wanted, but I feel better anyway. So Cliff, go right ahead and go on with what you were saying.
You know, the interesting thing, Jake, is when you understand how to do this, and I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me that they had heard about me and my training, and they wanted to do it, so they signed up for my training. And I asked, well, how did you hear about me? And they were like, oh, a lot of my friends told me about you, and I love that. I mean, to me, that's great. That makes me feel happy, that people are saying nice things about me. And the thing that was interesting is she kept saying that you're a real expert, and she kept saying that over and over and over, and then she compared me to somebody else. I won't say who it was, but she compared me, and Jake, you were there when I saw the person that I'm thinking about that she compared me to. It was kind of funny. And not to brag, I'm not a person that likes to brag a lot, but my students do really well when they follow my instructions. I've been doing this for 25 years, 26 years. And when you talk to somebody that's been doing it for 5 or even 10 years, I've got twice as much experience. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, what do you want in your corner? Do you want somebody with 10 years or 26 years? There's things that I've done in real estate that some people have never even heard about, and yet they're up on stage, or they're
and they don't think it can be done either.
Right.
They'll say, oh, you can't do that. And we have
I
students
love
that we
that.
can produce and trot out, and they're doing it, and they're doing it all the time. And we want to deliver content to the people on the radio show.
Yes.
But I just get excited when I think about that, because it's true. And you are actually the guy. You are actually the guy. I am too. Well, but my field is slightly different than yours. So
let's talk about specifics, and let's talk about something that I know a lot of people out there want to do, and it's like one of the first things that they try to sell you on in seminars and stuff. So wholesaling properties. Everybody out there wants to be a real estate wholesaler, and they want to wholesale properties because it's fast money, and it is. It can be. But when you have people that have absolutely no clue what they're doing out there trying to pitch properties that they put under contract, the interesting thing is this. 9 times out of 10 they don't have it under contract. They don't have control over it. So and I'll speak in general terms. Somebody came up to me last week and they says, "Hey, I've got this house. It's a really good deal, and I want to wholesale it to you, and my wholesale fee is $50,000." Okay, great. Let's dissect that. Let's figure this out. So I start looking at the deal, and I realize they don't even have it under contract. They're just saying, over here is a house for sale, and because I showed you this house, I want $50,000. Doesn't work that way. Number one, I could just go put an offer on the house and bypass that person. I have no contractual obligation or maybe a moral obligation. They did try to, bring me a deal, but honestly, there's no legal binding contract or anything that I have with this person. So understand, me, Cliff, if you bring me a deal, I'm going to honor that. I'm going to give you the abilities to make this deal work for your benefit financially. But not everybody out there will. There's a lot of people out there that try to snake deals out of the other guy. And that happens probably 80% of the time. So the first thing that people without knowledge that go out there to try to do this, they don't get the property in their control. And there's many different ways to do that. And, we cover that in the real estate programs that we have, is how to get the property.
And we'll be talking about that in a minute, but
how to get the properties under control.
Right.
And it's not necessarily always the way everybody thinks. So when you do have the house under control, now you're in a position where you can, bring it to other people. And there's different ways and methods in different states. There's different laws that you have to be aware of. And we cover all of that. The other thing, the first thing I check on, number one, after this control situation is checked on, is the numbers, the math. They always bring me a killer deal. And the deal is just so amazing, you just can't believe it. And they tell me it's a $1 million house and I can buy it for $700,000. And it needs $100,000 in repairs, so there's $200,000 in profit, right? Now, let's dissect that a little bit, because the last one that was brought to me was about that scenario. Not the exact numbers, but rounded. And when I looked it up to find out what the property is worth, it was worth, guess how much, Jake? What do you think? If it was
$250,000.
No, it was worth max $650,000.
Oh, okay.
So the amount that they were offering it at $700, it was this great deal, and there I think was one comp like 8 miles away that sold for $1 million in a completely different neighborhood on the other side of an interstate. And in LA or Orange County, when you go on one side of the interstate to the other side, it's a completely different world. So, bad acquisition numbers. These are the problems that I see with wholesaling, people wholesaling deals out there. They just don't know what they're doing. So that kind of goes into the next thing. Most of the actors involved are inexperienced.
We could talk about this all day.
All day.
I think of the stories that just as I'm listening to you talk here, and I'm not going to interject right now because you've got plenty of your own.
Yeah.
But this is just something that is so common, is people preying on the ignorance of other people. And it's just one of the things that we hate, and it's one of the reasons why the show exists. Because we want to banish that. We want to banish that ignorance in our listenership.
And see, ignorance, you use the absolute correct word, because it's not the person that brought me that deal. They had no clue. They just did not know. And because they didn't know, how could they present a great deal? You can't if you don't know what a great deal is.
That's right.
So, and then to dissect it even more, it was worth $650 max. So if I would have bought it for $700, and then remember I said that it needed $100,000 in repairs,
right?
It needed $150. Because if you go in and you start doing these repairs and you know what you're doing, I went in there and I looked at it and I looked at all the things that needed to be done, and I knew immediately what needed to be done, and it was not $100,000. There were things that were missed. There were things that were issues that could have come up. I don't know if they would have, but you have to prepare for those. And it's like if there's something, if you have termites, if you have termites and you know you have termites, you've got wood damage somewhere in the house that must be repaired. And it could be really bad, or it might just be structural. Not structural, but, they might only be in the window trim, the trim around the window that's just decorative, because that happens. And, if you don't know these things and you're inexperienced when it comes to the repairs, and you buy the house, you fix it up, and you spend $50,000 over budget, now you're at $850, and the appraisal comes in at $650. What do? That's usually when they call Cliff and they say, help me, I got to get out of this deal. And I'm like, it's too late. You called me too late. You needed to call me in the beginning before you did that, because I would have helped you and turned you away from the deal, or at least taught you how to structure it so that it would win. And, sometimes winning on a deal is walking away from it without losing a dime. The other things that I find is when a wholesaler brings you a deal, and I see this all the time, is you have to close on it in a week. You have to close on it today. Here's this smoking hot deal, and you must buy it today. You got to give me a commitment today. Now, if I don't know you and I've never done business with you, that's not going to happen. If I've bought several houses from you and I know you're really good at finding deals, and I could do the math and the numbers and the acquisition costs in my head probably in about 10, 15 minutes.
Which you can.
Yep, and I do all my research online in that 10 minutes. I know whether I can make that decision to make that acquisition right then and there.
Well, you know what the beauty is? What the beauty is that
so can my students.
We can teach the students to do that.
Exactly.
We can teach them to do the very same thing. Very same thing. So it is cause and effect. It's not magical thinking. I just want to interject with that. You go back to what you were talking about.
But, and then, I got two more items that I wanted to discuss on this aspect, which was
go ahead.
Bad deal structure and the original offer. Their original offer was bad. A lot of people don't have any clue what value is on a piece of property. They listen to other people. Now, real estate agents are great. I know a lot of really, really, really good real estate agents, but there are some out there that just don't understand the investor side of real estate. If I talked to an agent in Huntington Beach one time, and he says, Cliff, why would I put an offer that's under asking price? I want to get the commission and close the transaction and get my buyer to win, so I'm always going to offer over asking price. And I'm like, how do you know what asking price is versus the value of the property? They could be, I looked at a house in Hollywood Hills, and they wanted $800,000, and it was really worth $600,000. And I asked the agent, I says, how can you list a $600,000 house for $800,000? She says, it's real simple. When you pay me $800,000 for the house, it's going to be worth $800,000. And I got real mad, and I hung up the phone, and I was really mad because I realized she was absolutely right. The definition of the value of a property is what somebody's willing to sell it for.
That's fair market value. That's right.
What somebody's willing to pay for it.
Willing buyer and a willing seller.
The difference is that would have been a cash deal. And cash deals have nothing to do with a bank financing situation where you have to bring in an appraiser in for the bank to determine whether or not they're going to loan you the money on your acquisition, on what you were willing to pay. They might say, hey, that's great. You can buy it all day long for $800,000, but we're going to loan you the money to buy the house based on the $600,000 appraised value. So if you have the money to make up the difference, great. But let me tell you what, when you start wholesaling houses, or I'm sorry, when you start retailing houses to buyers and you're dependent on that appraisal and you're depending on a bank providing the funding for that buyer, then you better be sure you bought the math right. You bought the house right, the numbers work, and when you get to the other side, you better make sure that that is absolutely what the appraiser is going to say. And the only way to do that is to know what it is in the beginning. So, going back to that original offer so many times on the deal scenario that I just gave you, if they're wanting to sell it to me for $700 and you deduct, remember I said they wanted to make a $50,000 fee and they bought it for $650, they're paying full retail for it. So it kind of falls into that scenario where maybe the agent told them, look, if you buy this for $650, that's what they're asking, that's what you have to pay for it, with the whole Huntington Beach mentality of, you just offer whatever they're asking. And then you do $100,000 in repairs, you can sell it for $1 million because a house 8 miles down the road that looks just like this sold for $1 million. And you just can't do it that way. You have to do the science. It's not just, what happens if it doesn't work out? Is that agent or the people that brought you the deal, are they going to give you the difference in the losses that you're going to make? No, they're not. They've already got their commission check. They've already made their, finder's fee or whatever you want to call it, and they're gone and off to the next one, and there you are stuck in that scenario with a big loss. And that is really the most important thing that I try to help people with, is to eliminate those losses, eliminate the problems, And you want to say something, Jake?
Well, no, and I mean, we're coming close to the end of the show here, and we want it, and yes, this is what we want to do, and we, I sit here and I almost have to sit on my hands, as it were, because the things that you say inspire me to want to say something, but you're in the middle of some screed or diatribe or soliloquy or shit, oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I thing that you're doing, and I can't. Right. I have to let you go. But this is what we teach. And this is the important thing. And this is kind of, I know with you, this kind of gives you a sense of mission, because you hate to see some of the things happening that are happening out there, and you want to educate the people. And we can do that. And we have products that do that, and that can turn you into the expert, that can literally, no kidding, absolutely positively turn you into the same guy that Cliff is. Well, you'll have less experience. You can't catch up on his 26 years of experience. But we'll give you the same skills. So, Cliff, if you want to talk about that in the time we've got left.
Right, because, I do the show, number one, to give out information and try to help people. Number two, I want to be a little bit more well-known. There are people out there in the industry that know me, and they come to me and they ask me for my advice. And, over the years, I've taught for a lot of the gurus that you see on TV.
Well, that's right. And you're the man behind the curtain, aren't you?
I was the man behind the curtain.
The old Wizard of Oz thing, where the Wizard of Oz is out there up on the stage, and the Tin Man and the Straw Man and the Man Made of Brick and whoever it is who's in that show come and they look at all the pyrotechnics that the Wizard of Oz, and someone happens to go, I think it's the little dog, goes behind and pulls the behind the curtain, and there's a guy there, and he's operating all the gee whiz golly things that are making the pyrotechnics go. And this is the actual guy. This is the actual guy. And we talk to you when we talk in the events that we do. We talk about you having been for many years the man behind the curtain. And this is what we mean when we say that. And get back to what you were talking about.
Yeah. So, as the show is new, so this, we did our first show last week, and this is our second show. So we're going through the growing issues and stages of what to present on the show and make it exciting for you so that you can listen and get engaged. And we're going to start taking calls soon. And in fact, I want to give out the phone number if you have any questions or if you need help on real estate deals. It's 1-800-396-1501. Again, it's 1-800-396-1501. And you can go to our website. It's realestateexpertonline.com, and it's realestateexpertonline.com. Go, if you have questions, give us a call. We'll schedule a call with you, or we'll call you back right away, or maybe I'll even answer the phone if I'm not doing something else. I want to help as many people in this business, and I couldn't do that in the industry of the seminar business because I was restricted as to what I could teach, and now I can teach everything that I know, and I do. And we actually have, if you go to Real Estate Expert Online and you contact us, I'll show you a simple program that I have. It's online. It's video training. I put this together. It's 26 videos that you can watch, and basically I took all of my knowledge and put it into this video session in a step-by-step format so that it made it really easy for you to understand how to work it and everything. So when if you're a beginning investor, or even if you've been doing this for years, come check this out. It's 25 years of my experience as a real estate investor on the things that I learned that work. And it's not things that sound fancy to make you think I'm really smart. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that's not in it because it doesn't work. It's just like you walking into the casino and seeing, I won the progressive jackpot for $600 million. That doesn't make you a better slot machine player, right? The only thing in real estate that's going to make you better and successful is what? Doing strategies and methods and things that work. So I don't waste time on things that don't work. Yes, there's other things out there that do work, but they don't work as good as the things that I show you. So it's 26 sessions, 26 videos. They're all about, 40 minutes to an hour and a half. It's not like it's going to take a lot out of your day. You sit down, you watch the video, you go through and you learn it, and you can watch it over and over and over until you really understand it. And then you go out and you actually apply the things that helps you take it from, I see a lot of people that get the stuff, they put it on their desk, and they don't even unwrap it, and they just try to absorb it through mental telepathy. And then they never go out and try to put an offer in. Every single time I do a speaking event or an engagement, I ask the audience, I ask them to raise their hands. How many put an offer in today? How many put an offer in this week? How many put an offer in this month? And you would actually be shocked at the amount, actually the lack of amount of people that raise their hands.
Well, and that's right. And nothing happens until an offer gets put in, does it?
Right. So
nothing else matters until that happens, and nobody's doing it.
And almost everybody, I focus a lot on how to put the offers in, how to find the real estate agents that will put these offers in, how to find the deals, how to find those types of properties that you can get these really good deals on. I call them, my smoking hot deals. And if you're looking in the right place, there's lots of them. If you're looking in the wrong places, you're going to get a lot of people pushing you away, saying you can't do this, that doesn't work here, that only works on TV. And my gosh, if I just had a nickel for every time somebody told me that won't work,
you'd have a bucket load of nickels.
I'd have more than that. So, again, give us a call. We'll show you how this works. I gave you the 800 number. I'll give it to you again. It's 1-800-396-1501. And again, the website is realestateexpertonline.com. And tune in to us next week. We're going to be here every Saturday from noon until 1. And we are also on the Real Estate Expert Online website. We'll show you our other locations for Facebook and contact information. And, again, we're here on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, blasting out throughout the whole Loma Linda Valley here.
Yes, sirree.
So when you think of real estate investing and you want to get involved, think about us, Jake, Cliff, Real Estate Expert Online. And again, thank you for being on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks very much. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Expert Online Radio Show with Jake and Cliff. The real estate investing revolution has only just begun. Want more information on your own personal revolution? Go to realestateexpertonline.com or call 1-800-396-1501. Topics and opinions expressed by the personalities on the Real Estate Online Radio Show with Jake and Cliff are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not to be construed as either legal, accounting, tax, investment, or other professional advice or instructions, or even as factual reporting. Please be aware that real estate investing is very risky. The investment strategies and related information mentioned on the show may not be suitable for you. All investments are subject to risks which could result in the entire loss of your investment. The owners and distributors of Real Estate Online Radio Show with Jake and Cliff advise you to always be careful and to apply due diligence for all investment information and for all decisions with respect to any potential investment or transaction. You should never rely solely on this broadcast, its content, or its participants for any personal or business decision, but should always seek the advice of your attorney, broker, CPA, financial advisor, or other trusted professional before taking action as an investor. No comment, question, or remark or other content shall be construed as an express or implied promise for the undertaking of a contract or agreement between the listener and the personalities, or constitute a waiver of any part of this disclaimer or applicable laws. Moreover, the owners and distributors disclaim any responsibility for either supplementing, correcting, or modifying the content of any broadcast or podcast produced. Nothing in this content shall be construed to encourage evasion or disobedience of any law or be deemed to constitute a submission to the jurisdiction in any state or country. Persons or entries referred to are fictional, and no depiction or reference to any person or entity is intended. Any seeming resemblance to an actual person or identity is entirely coincidental.
KCAA Loma Linda.